Hi everyone, it's Jill Foster here for Penny Black, and today we are going to be making this card and doing some artsy silhouette stamping. And this is a fun technique, especially if you want to give some mixed media a try and just have a lot of fun playing with our new silhouette stamp called Soulful Silhouettes. And this stamp set is actually perfect for this technique because you have stamps that are just a solid image, which makes it fun to ink them up in unique ways. So I just wanted to mention before we get started, I will have a full supply list at the very end of the video. So if you just hit pause at that time, then you can check it out in detail. So to begin, the kind folks at Arteza sent me this really awesome set of acrylic markers. So they come in a set of 20 and I love them. There's like low odor. I couldn't smell anything and I'm very sensitive to that. They're also water based, so it's not a thick application of the acrylic paint, so it works well for putting on transparent stamps such as this. They also come with extra nibs if you need them and tweezers for changing those out, although I haven't needed to do that yet. To get these markers activated, you just go ahead and sort of press them on a piece of paper until the ink or the paint starts flowing down into the marker tip. Just takes a few times, and once you do that once, then you are ready to go, and you can see that there is now ready to go. And I also wanted to mention that the really wonderful folks at Arteza are offering a chance for you Penny Black fans to win a set of these markers. So all of the Arteza guidelines for the giveaway will be down in the YouTube description box below, so be sure to check that out and leave a comment on this video as well. So to begin, I am working in my Misty stamp positioning tool, but you really would not need to do this for this technique. I am coloring directly onto my stamps using the acrylic markers. I am working fairly quickly and in small sections because I don't want that ink to dry on there. Now it is a pretty liquidy, like I said, it's a water-based ink, so you do have some time. It doesn't like instantly dry on there, which is what makes these so great. So I just stamp that down, and then now I'm going to work on the top part of this flower and just coloring on there with that. You can sort of mix and match your colors for some shading. So you can see here I'm putting in just a little bit of red with that orange. Not on all of them, but on some of them, and I am stamping that down. And you can see there on the paper how quickly you can get this really lovely artsy look to your stamping. It looks like you just painted this right onto your paper. Now I did spray my stamps with water and scrub them off with just an old rag that I used to clean my stamps, and sort of put my finger into the tip of the rag and use that to scrub into those small spaces. I did not want to leave that acrylic paint on there to dry for very long, so I cleaned them right away. There is some staining to the stamp, but it doesn't affect how your stamp stamps in the future. So if you used a like an ultra clean type of cleaner, you could get your stamp a little bit cleaner, but I just find that water works and that stamps fine the next time. I don't mind if there's a little bit of staining. So I did that with the first flower from this set a couple of times, and now I'm just coming in here with another one. Now I'm stamping onto Bristol white cardstock, which is a very smooth cardstock, which helps get that really great impression and pick up some of the textures that you get from the acrylic paint. So it does have that hand painted artsy look. But it does kind of stick when you put the stamp down with all of that solid area covered. It does kind of stick. So you'll notice there my magnets are really working overtime to hold that paper down. Now what's great about this set, Soulful Silhouettes, is there's lots of different stamps and flower designs in the one set, so you can create sort of a garden of flowers on your design. So by mixing and matching different flowers and different colors, you can get that look. Here I am going to just move on and do a different flower down here in this corner using different colors too, starting with the stems. and then adding a couple of colors up at the top. You can see this set of 20 markers has a lot of color choices, and you can kind of mix them together. If you have any like of the lighter color that gets on the tip of the darker color when you're adding the paint to your stamp, you can just color on a piece of scratch paper until that color is clean so there isn't any cross contamination. And I'm just going to reposition a different flower over here. So again, this set gives you lots of different options, lots of different curves to the flowers, which doesn't seem like a big deal till you're trying to create a card like this. And it's so nice then to have flowers that sort of curve to the right and curve to the left, give you that sort of wildflower garden look. And I will stamp that down. And then clean off my stamp here. And this is so fun. Now, you could certainly create cards just like this. Now, on my card, I'm going to move on and add some other layers and some other media to this to do a sort of a mixed media card. But you can see that this really just looks beautiful like this. You could just keep stamping flowers like this, or if you wanted something really simple, you could just do a basic panel in the center of your card with just one of these flowers stamped on there. You could make a set of cards like that, one for each different flower that's included in the set. And so it's just a fun way to stamp. So you can do it as simple or as elaborate as you like, whatever your style is. So I went ahead and made sure those were dry, and now I just have some watercolor paints. This is the 12 pan metal pan of watercolors from Arteza, and I'm just doing a loose background here. Now this, like I said, this is on Bristol cardstock, which has a very smooth surface, so these watercolors are going to kind of puddle up and not have a very smooth look in the background, which is fine with me. I'm going to add some inking later. I just wanted a way to really apply a lot of color around the flowers, and I'll also add some extra artsy effects to those red flowers especially. Now, because these were stamped in acrylics, you do have some sort of wiggle room with just painting right over the top. So you can see here down on these greens, that green that I stamped is very bold, and so I can just paint right over the top of it. I don't have to just try and fit everything in perfectly so I don't cover up any leaves. So I can just paint right over the top, so it makes that a really fast process. And the only thing I really tried to avoid was painting too much over the blues or those pinks. I just didn't want to discolor those too much. So I added some darker greens, some yellows, and then I'll add some blue up here to the sky. And I think at this point, this was like, oh, sometimes things get a little bit ugly before they get pretty. And so, and that's just because I think painting with the watercolors onto that Bristol cardstock, it can handle the wetness, but it is definitely not absorbent. So that's what makes it great for stamping on, but a little bit trickier for adding these watercolors. So you'll see here, I will add some inks in a little bit. Now I picked up a little bit of red, and I loved how this turned out. Just adding that right up on those stamped flowers. So the acrylic stamping really still shows through, especially if I add a little bit more water to that, but you can give those more fullness, more of an artsy look just by putting in a little bit of red, a little bit of yellows and oranges right up there where they were stamped. And I also added a touch of pink right here on top of these, and just to brighten them up even more and make them pop. Same thing with the blue here, just a little bit of watercolor right on top of that. And you can see just dropping in a little bit more yellow and reds. I just really loved how that made those flowers really pop in a substantial part of the design. So I went ahead and dried that with my heat tool, and here's where I'm just going to kind of soften up that background. So I'm using some Memento inks and a jumbo sponge dauber tool just to add a little bit of background inking to this piece. And for me, I felt like this just really made the flowers pop even more. It kind of smoothed out that background. while still keeping some of that artsy watercolor look. And again, like I said, all of the exact colors and supplies used for all of everything that I'm doing here will be up on screen at the very end of the video, and you can just hit pause and check them out in more detail. And I'll link all the Arteza and Penny Black products in the description box below. Now, because I love to play, I decided to grab my colored pencils and just add a little bit more detail onto the flowers. Just a little extra shading on there, and a couple of these, especially these larger, more open ones. What's nice is you can layer on some brighter colors if things got a little too dark for you. You can layer that on. And I especially found this helpful on those leaves that I had stamped, the stems and the leaves, just to make them more of a focal point. I added a touch here and there on some of these circles that were stamped. To me, this card is so much about the process. It's so fun to just kind of get everything out and play and keep adding layers. And honestly, even if this card hadn't turned out, I would have had so much fun creating it. It wouldn't have mattered really, but it did turn out, and I'm especially happy with the look. Here you can see where I am adding some shading to those leaves. I think that really did add quite a bit to the card and finishing that off and making it pop. It also allowed me to kind of push some of those flowers back behind the leaves, especially there like those pink ones, and giving some depth and dimension to the overall design. So I'll just continue here with this shading. There isn't any need or worry to really be perfect with your shading or covering up the lines. Again, that's part of this artsy look you get with stamping with the acrylic paints. And so you just don't have to worry about perfection at all. I even pulled a little bit of this darker color here to create a bit of a focal point here with this blue flower, and in a few other spots here, just to bring that into the foreground a little bit more. And that's another thing that's nice about these acrylic markers. It is a very light application and stamping of it. So you can color on top of it. It's not gunky or thick at all. So here I grabbed those acrylic markers again, and I am just dotting, so just lightly pressing down and adding some more bright colors in here. The opacity is really nice with this yellow. I loved how this turned out. I'm also going to mix in some white here as well. And I think this is going to be a great marker for Christmas cards for doing snow as well, because it's just so easy to add those white dots right there onto your design. The last thing I did here was grab the acrylic markers and just add a little extra shading and lines here onto those stems, so we have some light and some dark. Just made them a little bit thicker in a few places. And you also have some time, especially in the Bristol paper. If you overdo it, you can kind of blend it with your finger, pick up a little bit with a paper towel. So to finish off this card, I stamped the Penny Black Sentiment Inspirational Sentiments right up onto the top of the card. I also tore a little piece of the corner and added a little text stamping behind that, and you can see that all right here. This is a standard size card, an A2 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and using the Arteza acrylic markers and some other mixed media effects. I thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also leave a comment. And don't forget, there is a giveaway for a set of those acrylic markers. Just look down in the description box for all the details on how to enter. Happy stamping!